Jeremy here with another painting process video of this image called A Chance Encounter. It's inspired by the classic animation My Neighbor Totoro. I got the idea when I was driving home late one night and it started raining, and it reminded me of the scene from Totoro when Totoro and the kids are waiting at the bus stop. And I wondered what it would be like if you were just to drive up on a Totoro one night. I started by gathering some references. I used Google Street View and found a road surrounded by forests somewhere in Japan. I referenced the film Totoro, especially the scene that inspired me. I also found the perfect vehicle to add into my scene. Now, with all the pieces assembled, I can start to create the composition. I started with just some very simple line work. I don't normally use line, but I wanted to try a different process, and the line work really helped me when painting the car and adding in a little bit of overall exaggeration to the piece. So I'm keeping my line work very, very rough, just to kind of see how everything will come together in a composition. Then on a new layer I do a little bit more of a refined line drawing, but still not that precise, and really work out some of the exact design of the car. Then I start working on the background. On a flat background layer, I just start painting in the overall palette that I want to work into the image. And I try to block everything out as quickly as possible very early so that I have a good understanding of where I'm going with this. So I use a lasso tool to cut out the individual road and the bushes on their own layers, just to keep everything nice and organized. So now what I'm doing is I'm blocking out each of the elements, like the car and Totoro, with a solid shape, and it's really great to have all of your main elements blocked out early on in the painting. That way you can kind of see how things are going. So if you have the general shape and the general palette blocked in very early, it's easy to see where the painting's going before you start detailing and putting lots of effort in that, which takes a lot of time. So then I start working a little bit more on the car, just with a new layer on top. I'm modeling out the side of the car and some of the reflections, as well as the interior, the warm light that's coming in from within the car. And then I start blocking out the background using custom shapes. I have all kinds of custom shapes of trees and leaves, and I want them to feel realistic, or at least give the illusion that they're realistic in the background. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking a regular splatter brush and I create a texture out of it by just simply transforming it along the road so that it's in perspective. Later I decide to, instead of having my figure, the man in the image, outside the car looking at Totoro, I have him inside the car. I think it's a different storytelling approach, and I think it works a little bit better. Then I start modeling in some more details of the car, and the car is so close to us in the image that it deserves to be modeled out and detailed a little bit more. And it's one of the few man-made relatable objects in the image that will really help sell the idea of the story. I'm adding in the Japanese license plate. So then what I do is I start blocking in some more foreground trees, and then I'm using a radial blur to kind of blur them out, because they're not important to the story. We still want it to feel like that there's trees behind the car, but we don't want it to be in focus and sharp, because what's important is the car in the scene. I'm doing a similar thing I did with the texture on the road, where I use a splatter brush and then a radial blur to create the rain. And now I'm blocking in the sign, that famous sign that's in the Totoro movie. It's the same exact one, same exact design. I'm just copying it. So now I start to work on Totoro himself, and we've never seen Totoro really modeled out like this with lighting and and everything, so it was a bit of a struggle at first to try to understand how Totoro looks in 3 dimensions. You know, how big his nose is, how much his belly sticks out. So I kind of go back and forth a little bit on the Totoro design throughout this painting. Here I'm adding in a little bit more lighting. The strong light source from the headlight was a really big part of this painting, so I wanted to make sure the lighting on Totoro was just right. At this point I'm a bit happier with where the painting's going, so I'm adding some details that sit more on the ground, closer to where the camera is in the scene, and actually adding in a little bit more detail on the car because it's so close to where the camera is in the scene. It's important to have some areas that are very sharp and in focus, as well as some areas that are pushed back and blurred out. So I decided to change things up quite a bit with Totoro in terms of the lighting and the temperature of light that's hitting his belly, and modeling a form I'm just still not happy with. Here I created a multiply layer on top of everything, and then I'm erasing it away to get the lighting effect even stronger and to make it really feel like it's at nighttime. Here I'm taking a copied flat version of Totoro, and then I'm flipping it to get the water reflection. Again, a lot more texture and detail on the foreground elements, adding in some more water. Next, what I do is the splatter brush once again, and I create little rain droplets on the window, and then just use a smudge brush to show that it's running down the side of the car. It's really fun painting in the rain effects when the rain is reflecting off the headlights and bouncing off the car in different ways. Adding in a little bit of modeling of light and a little bit more overlays and different multiplies and color dodges to finish this up. Okay, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments section. I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time.